Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Thursday, August 19th, 2021. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, you know, folks, if she was a baseball play, she'd be an inside the park home run. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
David, your intros are the pick-me-up I need in my day when I'm just like, holy smokes, my email is just a bunch of people screaming and yelling at me, and then I'm waiting for the clock to tick down so I can get the pep talk I need from David Menzies. That one of these very fine days, I'm going to welcome myself onto the live stream with maybe a little bit of scary Sherry makeup on the side. And intro you like that. That's what I think I'm going to do. You know, Halloween is coming up. Maybe that's what we should go as. We should go as Scary Sherry and Macho Man.
Oh, wouldn't that be delightful? Is Halloween canceled this year, Sheila, like it was last year? Or I guess it's redundant to say wear a mask on Halloween. That's what you're supposed to do. But have we got any official proclamation? I know in terms of scary news out of the city of Toronto, all their employees must be vaccinated by the day before Halloween, October 30th. But do we have any news on whether the kids get to enjoy, you know, a little normal fun?
There's something wrong with you, Ontario people, if you let the government cancel Halloween on you. Halloween is one of my most favorite holidays.
Me too.
It's a season, really. I get excited when the Halloween decorations come out in the store. Like, people get disappointed when they see school supplies sort of at the end of July, August. But when I see school supplies, I know Halloween, spooky season's right around the corner. And that's my favorite. I love Halloween. I love decorating my house, even if we just get like 2-3 kids because we're out in the middle of nowhere. I've got the stereo playing the Monster Mash out on the deck. I've got my Jason Voorhees mannequin dressed up in coveralls and a goalie mask. Like, I love Halloween, and I'll be damned if some bureaucrat is going to cancel it on me. If there is Halloween, I will have candy and I will be scaring kids.
You know what? Wow, we are two like-minded individuals, Sheila. You know, several Halloweens ago, one of the gags I did is that on my porch, I sat in a chair with a mask on with some straw stuffed into my shirt sleeves and, you know, motionless, ready to scare the trick-or-treaters. And these two kids came about 12, and one said, "Holy cow, man, that's a real person." And the other one says, no, it isn't. Look at the hands. You can tell it's a fake. But it was my skin, I felt like, I go, wow, I better go to a spa or something and get some treatment that you lady folks do to look so nice. But it still echoes in my mind that this guy thought I was a fake based on my real actual skin on my hands. But enough about Halloween and whatnot. Sheila, it's around this point of the show that you tell the folks out there what the ostensible policy reason is of this next now 57 minutes.
No, it's much earlier than we normally tell them. We're only 3 or 4 minutes in. Usually it's like 15 minutes in and we're like, oh yeah, we're actually doing a show here. We're not just allowing thousands of people to eavesdrop on our private conversation, which is usually what the first 15 minutes of this show is. This is the Rebel News Daily live stream. Used to just be on Friday. Used to just be hosted by Ezra Levant. But David and I host Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we've got some of our other talent hosting on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And this is a great way for us to interact with each other, talk about the news of the day, because there's just so much news that it's hard to do a fully produced video on it. And we want to discuss it as it breaks. And this is one of the best ways to do it. It used to be a way for us to also get a little bit of support financially from our viewers through something called the Super Chat on YouTube. YouTube, however, completely demonetized us and left a $400,000 hole right in the middle of the company. Why? Because we talked about YouTube censorship. No irony there.
Oh.
So I know, right?
Irony
Just-
to the factor of infinity right there.
these people. Anyway, so we are now streaming on Rumble, and you can also find us over on Odyssey and on Super U. And on those other two platforms, the last two that I mentioned, there are several different ways where you can support us. On Odyssey, you can buy some of their library cryptocurrency and leave a hyper chat, or you can tip us as a creator with it. But if you'd prefer to use regular old-fashioned fiat currency to do that, you can do that there too. And over on Super U, you can tip us as a creator there using regular old money, which is great, and we appreciate that, and we will do our best to read your comments, queries, and questions on air.
And whoa, do we have a huge
I know.
it's
So
a
much.
jam-packed sausage we got here for you today, folks, and we'll try to get through most of these topics. And we'll begin with a delightful report by our very own beloved Sheila Gunn Reid, and that is about Miss McKenna. File this under the Department of One Law for Thee and One Law for Me.
Right off the hop, I'm not a COVID snitch. I'm too busy minding my own business and working hard to worry about what other people are doing with their lives. And I don't live in constant television-induced COVID terror. I just don't. And frankly, I truly pity those who do. But I don't make the rules. The left does. The liberals do. And I think the rules will start to change when we start making the other side play by the very rules they oppress the rest of us with. That's why we sent a legal complaint letter to the government of Nunavut asking for an investigation into Liberal Infrastructure Minister Catherine McKenna's recent trip there. You see, McKenna flaunted her recent trip to the Northern Territory all over Twitter. Just take a look at some of these tweets and pay attention to what you're looking at there. Because there's a big problem with McKenna gallivanting all over Nunavut, and it's not normally something that I care about. McKenna definitely cares about it. And if you had done what she has done, she would want the book thrown at you. Look at this. Entering or traveling in Nunavut. Currently, travel to Nunavut requires authorization from Nunavut's Chief Public Health Officer, vaccinated travelers and non-vaccinated dependents. As of June 14th, 2021, fully vaccinated travelers can apply for an exemption to out-of-territory isolation. Vaccinated travelers include vaccinated critical workers, construction workers, residents traveling for leisure or medical reasons, and non-residents. Anyone traveling to Nunavut must first spend 2 weeks in self-isolation at approved hotels in Ottawa, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Yellowknife, but you can get an exemption. Vaccinated travelers, though, will have to follow all public health measures and wear a mask in public for the first 14 days. That last part is important. Vaccinated or not, special exemption or not, you have to wear a mask and social distance if you're visiting Nunavut. Look at this poor lady. She didn't get to jump the quarantine queue and she had to follow all the health restrictions. For Iqaluit resident Pauline Alenga, the disappointment started the minute she walked in the door of her hotel room. Alenga was on her way home from 2 months of trauma treatment when she entered a 2-week quarantine at the Residence Inn in Ottawa. I walked into my room and it was so filthy, she said. I ended up cleaning my room for 4.5 hours. I really was very disgusted. I guess hotel staff are cleaning fast because they keep filling up. My tub was black. I will be writing a letter to the Minister of Health. Yeah, well, Pauline, so did we. We wrote a letter too, asking the government of Nunavut to investigate Catherine McKenna because, first of all, she didn't spend 2 weeks in some gross hotel jail before she made her way to Nunavut, so we want to make sure she filed for an exemption, which she probably did, because she's way more special than Pauline, who went somewhere for medical care. But that doesn't explain how McKenna was getting away with not adhering to the rest of the public health regulations, because the territorial government does not care if you're vaccinated. If you're visiting the territory, you still have to mask and social distance. And the law should apply to everyone or no one. Here's a letter we sent to the Nunavut Department of Health. We are the lawyers for Rebel News Network regarding the above noted matter. Please confirm receipt at your earliest opportunity, and direct all future correspondence to the undersigned. We understand that Minister McKenna traveled to Nunavut on July 30th, 2021. As you know, the government of Nunavut has instituted requirements pertaining to travel in isolation for out-of-territory travelers arriving in Nunavut. Pursuant to these COVID-19 travel restrictions and Section 15 of Nunavut's order respecting social distancing and gatherings, number 14, the order, number 15, all persons entering Nunavut who are exempt from the mandatory 14-day isolation period set out in the order restricting travel to Nunavut must wear a mask while in a public place and at their place of work for the first 14 days following their arrival in Nunavut. The order defines a public place to include all outdoor areas within the boundary of a municipality in Nunavut. In addition to the mask requirement, the order further mandates that all exempt vaccinated travelers must adhere to all other public health measures, including social distancing. Our client advises that despite these requirements, Minister McKenna does not appear to have adhered to the order's mask requirement or complied with social distancing protocols. Rather, they advise she has been traveling around the territory, holding press conferences with the media and meeting with Canadians. Now, friends,
unbelievable. You know, I can only imagine all the sled dogs howling in terror when they saw Catherine, the carnivore of canines, coming into their territory. But you know, Sheila, the fact that Catherine McKenna is a narcissist, the fact that she is a hypocrite, that's about as newsworthy as reporting there is salt water in the Atlantic Ocean. Why don't we get to the crux of the matter? What do you think our chances are with this complaint actually being fulfilled in a tangible way?
I'm not sure, but I think the point is that we have to do our best to hold them to account either way, and it behooves us to do this. You know, as they say, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and you know, it's our job to hold politicians to account, and we don't need to imagine what this would look like if McKenna had been a conservative. Because all we have to do is look at how Max Bernier was treated when he traveled to Manitoba to attend a political event. He was arrested, he was handcuffed, he was tossed in a car, and he was held because he, according to Manitoba, did not comply with the public health orders there. Well, it's pretty clear McKenna was all over the Northern Territory there posting pictures of herself not complying with the public health orders there, because you can get an exemption to skip quarantine if you're an important person like Catherine McKenna, and not like poor Paulina Lenga, who was out of the territory for 2 months getting medical treatment. Oh, no, she has to go stay in one of those gross hotels, but McKenna doesn't have to. All that aside, the two-tiered level of society that we live in aside, McKenna, whether she's vaccinated or not, and I'm assuming she is, she still has to adhere to social distancing, and she has to adhere to masking both indoors and out. And she didn't. She's so shameless about it. She just posted all the evidence all over social media. And the media didn't seem to care. Only we noticed. So we're trying to do something about it.
No, you're so right, Sheila. It is indeed a dog-eat-dog world out there, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear these days. But, you know, here's the thing. I'm trying to understand. Miss McKenna is yesterday's climate Barbie. She's on the outs. What is the purpose of this trip? Is it simply for vanity?
Yeah, David, you ask a lot of good questions, but that was kind of a dumb one. Of course it is. I mean, she's up there just showing off. She's just burning through that expense account while she still can. That's really what this is all about. She's just wringing what she can out of the taxpayer and posting photos of it. So we're trying to hold her to account for her latest vanity trip. You don't get to violate public health orders while you are actively cheering on the persecution of other people who have. And if people want to help us by covering the cost for us to write 2 legal letters, we didn't just send one to the health department, we also sent one to the RCMP. And if you want to help us, you can donate at rebelinvestigates.com.
You know, the chutzpah is so off the charts, Sheila. Her house husband, Scott Gilmore, in Maclean's a few years ago, he wrote a column entitled Canada is not a country. And yet here we have his wife jet setting around the north on our dime, as you said, eating up as much of her expense account as possible prior to September 20th, presumably. And Scott Gilmore himself writing in a government-subsidized magazine saying Canada is not a country. These people have no shame.
No, and sometimes I would agree with that whole, like, maybe Canada isn't a country, maybe it's a country, but maybe that country doesn't include Alberta. I'm willing to hear those arguments, but that's not the argument that he was making.
No.
And if it's not a country, how can you be married to a woman in the government of the country? Your family is benefiting from the fact that Canada is a functioning country, at least with regard to Laurentia. And so, it's fine for him. It's fine for him to make sure that cushy MP salary is benefiting his family. That's when Canada is a country, but otherwise then it's not.
Incredible. Well, from the great Dominion of Canada to the distinct society known as La Belle Province, why don't we check out a little protest that happened in Quebec recently?
I'm afraid of what's happening next. To be honest, I'm scared. I'm scared for all of these people's freedoms. We're many, and businesses are going to suffer even more.
How long does this go on for? Where does the line get drawn?
I'm not sure, but I believe that we should do everything that we can to not let people die. That's how I feel.
Or mask, whatever it is, not letting people die should be the first priority instead of, me don't want to wear mask and me want to travel.
We stand for our freedom always and forever. Freedom is a must without a fuss. All we want is freedom. That's all. Fuck the system.
Lincoln J for Rebel News here in downtown Montreal. Now, as you can see, there's thousands of Quebecers here on the streets of Montreal protesting the vaccine passport system that is coming to Quebec on September 1st. We're going to talk to some people, get some opinions, and see exactly how they feel. Let's take a look.
Devient la loi, et lorsque la tyrannie...
What brings you out here today?
Well, I definitely don't agree with what's been...
Sorry guys, but YouTube's policies are just too strict for us to air the whole video. If you do want to watch the whole video, please go to rebelnews.com. The link is in the description. There you can watch the full uncensored version.
I had to do one of those for my biker video too, Sheila.
I know you did.
It's getting increasingly difficult not to offend the Khaleesi's running YouTube. But a couple of things. I don't know what the mainstream media coverage of this was. I didn't have a chance to check.
They said it was hundreds.
Hundreds
okay. Of people.
Well, you know what? I tip my hat to them. I was guessing dozens of people took to the streets of Montreal, but hundreds are getting better. They're getting better. And it was interesting when Lincoln was speaking to those three ladies who came across to me just by their face diapers as a threesome of COVID Karens. They seem to be just fine with the government mandating what goes on their face, what goes into their body, i.e. the vaccine. What do you want to bet, Sheila, that before COVID, these three were probably on team my body, my choice when it comes to abortion rights? What happened to that slogan?
I'm not trying to be rude here, but again, those ladies are making a lot of bad choices for their bodies just on the outside looking in. And it's interesting to see people who very clearly lead unhealthy lifestyles lecturing the healthy about what they should do with their bodies and when. But I also found it interesting because they spoke about the very articulate anti-vaccine passport people, because in the rest of Lincoln's video, if you do get the chance to watch it on a platform that isn't YouTube, because that's the only place you'll see it in full, is that they're pretty articulate. They understand the issues. They understand, like, hey, there are things that the government should do. There are very few of them. They should all fit on a postage stamp or in a teacup. But there are some things that the government can do. But vaccine passports is not one of them. And so they do a really good job of articulating that. But it was really interesting to see the preconceived notions that those 3 or 4 pro-vaccine passport ladies, I don't know, however they would identify themselves. Again, I'm being kind here. How they spoke about these people that they had never met. They already had these preconceived notions. They're prejudging people based on their political views, and they infantilized them. They said, oh, those people with their me no want vaccine passports, me no want vaccine, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, excuse me? Your side of the debate is the one that needs cry rooms and emotional support animals when you encounter somebody with a different opinion. You guys are not the ones who should be infantilizing the emotional resilience of other people. You are the least resilient emotionally on the planet.
Yeah, it is astonishing how things have changed in this new normal that we're living in. But, you know, I have to say, I love that spirit in Quebec.
Yeah.
It truly is, when it comes to making a protest statement, a distinct society. I remember being there it was the month of May, I believe. There was over 100,000 people on the streets of Montreal. And for the life of me, I think the most we ever got in Toronto, maybe 10 or 12,000 at one of these World Freedom rallies. There's something about Quebecers that they don't put up with BS, and that was a fantastic turnout. And speaking of people who don't put up with BS, well, that would be bikers. You see, folks, in Port Dover, Ontario, every Friday the 13th, thousands and thousands, sometimes the crowd has been more than 200,000 for this little town. Bikers descend. It's like Sturgis down south. And it's a wonderful gathering of bikers. But you see, because of COVID, the mayor of Norfolk County, Mayor Chop, doesn't like the idea of choppers descending on her town. And she declared last Friday the 13th.
I know.
She declared it a non-event.
If you're issuing a declaration about something, it's actually a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing now. You've declared it something. Like, it's not a non-event. You're concerned with it, so it's an event.
Yeah, I feel so empowered as a Rebel News reporter, Sheila. I am declaring gravity a non-event. Let's check it out. Nope, didn't work.
Nope.
And likewise, do you think the bikers listened to this COVID Karen? Well, let's run some of the video evidence. The mayor of Norfolk County has declared this a non-event. She doesn't want you coming here because of COVID. What do you make of that?
Stupid decision. If I look at all the people that are here.
It looks like an event.
Yeah, it looks like an event to me, and a happy event too. Okay, so money talks and bikers walk?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah. Well, bikers don't listen anyway.
You know, it was so great to see the turnout. Admittedly, it was reduced. And I think this woman, Sheila, should issue an apology because she couldn't stop the bikers from coming. But what she did stop was the merchants having their tents that are usually erected for this event, the beer gardens, the entertainment facilities. Permits were not granted. And I just thought in the context of what we're seeing, Barack Obama's birthday party, all the rules go out the window. Late last month, the Toronto Blue Jays being granted a national interest exemption. Can you imagine? A national interest exemption so multi-million-dollar ball players in the employ of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, Rogers, can play their games at Skydome where thousands gather. But in the great outdoors in glorious Port Dover, the elected elites were doing everything to put the kibosh on this event. Shame on them.
Yeah, I mean, she really needs to answer to the business community in Port Dover, who, you know, when you have 200,000 people on a good year converging on that little small town, that's enough to make or break a business sometimes, to carry them through the rest of the year when you've got them there for a big rally over the weekend. And she shooed them out of town. She doesn't care if your little business in Port Dover, in downtown Port Dover, goes closed. Obviously, she doesn't care because she didn't want this to happen. And that could have been something that would have helped these businesses survive. It's literally biker Christmas for Port Dover. And she was like, no, you're not coming. You're not coming to spend the money in my community where my downtown business core has to survive. She didn't care about any of that. And I think it's disgusting.
And you know, Sheila, it's such an infrequent event. Friday the 13th, like any other date on a calendar, it will either occur once, twice, or a maximum 3 times per calendar year. And sometimes those 1, 2, or 3 times, they're in bad weather months, like, you know, January and March. This was an August Friday the 13th. This is Jackpot
nice
City. Beautiful weather. It was gorgeous, you know, and that added another element of why that was such a bullying. And, you know, a year and a half, the merchants of Port Dover, like all other merchants, they've endured hell with these lockdowns, and here you had a great opportunity for that to give, you know, a shot in the arm to them, to have some recovery. And Mayor Chop, who I presume has never lost a single day's worth of salary during this pandemic, and who knows, might have been one of the elected elite that voted themselves a raise, Sheila. No, because it doesn't affect her, because she has no skin in the game, she'll proclaim this as a non-event, which of course didn't work with the attendees, but was a party pooper indeed in terms of not granting those permits. Some Friday the 13th, you mentioned his name off the top of the show, Sheila, Jason Voorhees. Yeah, I can see Mayor Chop wearing the retro goalie mask and the meat cleaver when it comes to her war on fun. You know, and unfortunately, we couldn't show very much more of that video because YouTube will not permit us. You just all of a sudden see a black screen here. So if people want to see the rest of that video, and I highly recommend it, because if you have, again, preconceived notions about who and what bikers are, I suggest you take a look at that video on Rumble or one of the other platforms, Super U and Odyssey, because they're pretty articulate. They understand the issues here, and you know, the mainstream media will paint these guys as a bunch of outlaws and scofflaws who don't care about anything and who are just ignorant, and that's why they came. They completely are not. We'd love to show you more, but YouTube just won't let us. Yeah, I've been to this Port Dover event, I think either 3 or 4 times. I never see any violence. I never see any vandalism. I don't even see littering, Sheila. You know, the streets are clean, and you know, and they're really good-natured people. Even when I was trying to get a rise out of them, you might remember a video from a couple years ago when I got a bicycle that looked like a motorcycle, and I said, wouldn't it be great to follow the edicts of Climate Barbie by just doing the whole biker image thing, but not actually having an internal combustion engine you have to pedal around? And I think the ongoing dialogue was, I was telling them I'm Canadian badass. I was decked out in biker gear and spandex bike shorts. And, and the most frequent comment offered was, more like Canadian fat ass. So they weren't buying it. But you know what? It was all done with a sense of humor, not in a sense of Antifa type threatening. And it's a great event. And I hope next year, I didn't check when the Friday the 13th fall on 2022. I hope it's at least one does fall on a good weather month. But you know what, Sheila? Who knows what the climate, and by that I mean the political climate, will be then. I mean, I don't think we're out of the woods in terms of masks and social distancing and vaccines and gatherings. I really don't. I can see this going on maybe another year, maybe another 2 years.
Oh, For sure. I can see the saber rattling already happening in Ontario for a re-lockdown. I don't know how many that is for you guys, 4, 5? What wave are you in there?
Well, you know, I have
5,
to check
7?
I have to check the perversely entitled Reopening Ontario Act. Kind of like in 1984, where the Ministry of Love is not where you want to go because that's where they torture people to death. Yeah, but it's called the Reopening Ontario Act, and we're going to show how committed we are to reopening it by, well, closing you down under threat of fine or even imprisonment. Yeah, beauty. But you're right. I mean, it's just ongoing, and you know, our boss, Ezra Levant, when Doug Ford made that comment that the kids are going back to school in September no matter what, even if he has to get behind the wheel of the school bus. And I don't think he has a license to drive a school bus. Well, as Ezra said, you know, the meter on his internal BS detector veered right into the red zone. And so did mine, quite frankly. This ranks right up there with the little Arthur story. Was he a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old advisor to Doug Ford that he made a personal trip to? So I'll believe it when I see it when the school reopens. And just because it reopens, how quick will he capitulate to the unions and the media, which are already turning on him, Sheila, even though that we know kids are virtually invulnerable to this virus. So, yeah, there's more to see. And another thing, well, I think it's time for you, Sheila, to do a Barry Horowitz pat on the back in regard to masks at voting places, which you did indeed predict weeks ago.
Yeah, I did. It was maybe last week when I said, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have to wear masks in the polling stations, or some of them, because of where they are, will require vaccines to get inside. And as it turns out, in Blacklock's reporter today, although I think maybe our web team has written this up too, I'm not sure, but feds are going to toss out maskless voters at the voting stations. If you come in and you try to vote, your franchise, your ability to decide the fate and future of your province, that thing that you get to do as a citizen to determine what happens for the next 4 years in your country, they're going to throw that in the garbage in favor of a piece of paper across your face. That's what this is about. It says, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Sheila.
Go ahead,
sorry.
David.
Oh, no.
I was just going to read from the Blacklock's article.
Please do. Please proceed.
Oh, okay. It says Chief Electoral Officer Stéphane Perreault yesterday said his agency will strictly enforce any local mask requirements on Election Day, September 20th. Maskless voters will be ejected from polling stations if they defy local health orders, he said. There will be masks, Perreault told reporters. If Canadians do not have a mask, we will offer a mask. We have purchased a very, very large number of masks. I bet you have, Elections Canada. I bet you have. Elections Canada, in a technical document, key changes for the 44th general election explain the requirement. Electors will be required to wear masks if masks are required in the province or local jurisdiction, wrote staff. So that's most of the country. If masks are not required, electors will still be strongly encouraged to wear one. There will be sanitizing stations at entrances and exits, as well as physical distancing measures. You will not deny me a ballot if I choose to be masked and I'm 6 feet away from everyone else, correct? Asked a reporter. Well, you have to be careful here, replied Perreault. I think electors have a responsibility, whether it's a personal choice or even for medical reasons, said Perreault. Now, there are medical exemptions, but they should plan their vote. If you do not intend to vote with a mask, I encourage you to vote by mail. Isn't that convenient?
But Sheila,
isn't that shocking?
It is shocking because some people, it's never been my case, admittedly, they wait till the 11th hour to make that decision. So, I mean, how does this mail thing work? Is it by postmark? And And also, I'm sorry, I have trust issues with the mail. Oh, sure, I get my junk mail every day. That seems to come through. But something as important as a vote, I'm not sure I want to trust that to the mail. I think I would spend the extra money and get a courier or send it by registered mail. And I love that statement by Chief Electoral Officer Perot. There will be masks. It reminds me of that great Daniel Day-Lewis movie, There Will Be Blood, right? I mean, this proclamation, almost king-like, and not respecting, as you referred to, Sheila, the medical conditions of people that can't wear masks, and B, option B, going by mail, might not be suitable for them based on trust issues. So I'm wondering if we're going to see a few scenes, shall we say, at voting places come September 20th.
Yeah, it's going to be mayhem, I think. Now, I will just read one more paragraph from here, because he then goes to address the medical exemption part. He says, now, if you have a medical exemption and you have not been able to vote by mail in advance, and you have a medical reason not to wear a mask, then you will not be denied a right to vote, said Perot.
Oh.
But, so I guess, hang on. So you have to explain to the medical or to the electoral officials at the polling station your medical exemption, which is gross, because you should be allowed privacy, especially when you're voting, by the way. So you have to explain to them what your medical exemption is, because otherwise, the next line says, but if it's just a matter of personal choice, and the mask is mandatory in the jurisdiction in which you are voting, then we will apply those rules. So you know what? People, get ready to have tickets issued against you and your vote stripped from you because you don't want to wear a mask in a polling station. That's the moral of the story here. And this is atrocious, because if you don't have ID, you get to vote. They'll just figure out a way to make sure that you get to vote. If you've lived out of the country, let's say you're a Hollywood actor supporting the Democrats, and you've lived out of the country for years, perhaps a generation or two, the Liberals have made it really easy for you to vote for them. Even if you don't reside in Canada and haven't in decades, you can still do that. But if you are somebody who says, no, I'm not wearing that stupid mask anymore, you don't get to vote.
You know what, Sheila? There's another issue that just came to mind, and maybe Mr. Producer Justin can find the clip that we did a few years ago. And it was about, if you recall, I dressed in a burqa to cast my vote.
It's one of my favorand videos. Because I don't know why you carried a purse.
Handbag and,
I don't know why you had a purse, but you did.
And I tried to speak in a feminine voice, like, hello, and but the point was, there was a serious point to this, Sheila, which is this: how do you know the person on the voting list wearing a full mask is indeed the actual person? And now, forget about burqas and what have you. It's now these medical. I mean, if you're wearing that mask, sunglasses, a bald cap, that could be any Joe Blow, Sheila, right? So are they not going to? And I can tell you this: I wonder if this rule will be in place. On the weekend, I was in Niagara Falls, and I dropped by the casino. Also, mandatory masking. Except when you're going in, you must pull your mask down so that they can see your face for age verification. And for an old timer like me, I get waved in. If it's a younger person, they have to supply them with government photo ID. So I'm wondering, Sheila, will the casino rules that we have in Ontario be tougher than the electoral rules for a federal election? If so, why so? And and by the way, weigh in on that, Sheila, and Justin will air that clip.
Please. But I just can't believe that this is where we're at. We were so concerned just 5 years ago that identities were unclear when people were voting, and now we're making it a requirement for your identity to be unclear when you're voting.
Bingo.
This is how do we ensure the safety and the reliability and the authenticity of our elections. When we have no ability to verify your identity, you can just get someone to vouch for you. And if you show up with no ID while wearing a mask, they're like, yeah, here's your vote, Joe Blow. Cast it. This is where we're at now.
But Sheila, even if you have government-issued photo ID, like a driver's license or a passport, if I'm wearing a mask, sunglasses, a cap, that could be anybody.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. And you know what? You've given me an idea, and I'll pitch it to you on air. Normally, I pitch these stories in private, folks, to Sheila, and she almost always says yes. I'll go to an advance poll, exactly decked out, and see what happens. Because this is a major flaw in the system. I mean, we would never commit voter fraud. I would never give my voting card to somebody and have them dress up, pretend to be me. But the fact that it is me and they don't ask me to remove my mask, sunglasses, and cap, that's a big problem. Like Sheila said, it's now a mandate to disguise your identity. Unbelievable. Before we go on, folks, Mr. Producer Justin, who's always Johnny on the spot, he's found that video. Let's check it out.
Gloves and carried a purse, and at least at first he spoke in a high-pitched voice. I mean, talk about suspicious. A 6-foot-tall man in a cab, speaking in a squeaky voice, asking to vote. Well, look at what happened when he showed up.
Oh, hello. I'm here to vote, please.
Yeah, you know what, sir? I'll be right with you. Just hold a minute. Okay?
Sir.
Would you like to vote?
Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So you work with revisions and then you can vote today if you want? Okay?
I can vote today, right?
You can if you'd like.
Okay. Yes, please.
Just have a seat, sir.
Hello.
Do you notice how calm that Elections Canada officer was? No skepticism, no suspicion.
What I can't believe, Sheila, is the constant reference to sir. I guess, back then, misgendering wasn't quite the thing, so I didn't make a ruckus. But I am getting a little misty-eyed. That car I got out of was my old 1993 Prelude. Yes, the SRV edition that Lady Menzoid cruelly made me get rid of 2 years ago. But I digress. What do you make of that, Sheila?
A lot has changed since then, because now that lady would be fired. She would be stuffed into the sensitivity training sausage maker for months and months before she could ever work for Elections Canada or the government ever again. But they called you sir, and then you just continued on talking in that high-pitched voice that sounds like Homer Simpson when he pretends to be a lady for some reason.
But Sheila, you know what the important point is? I know we got some super chats to get to. It's this. Already their suspicions are aroused just based on, I guess, on my height, my weight. I can't remember if I was wearing heels that day or not. But the fact is, already by their language, they know that this is not a female under that burqa, right? So why didn't they? You'd think that would make them press for, listen, could you go into a private room with another female and unmask just so we can confirm your identity? But they didn't. And I know why. Because they're scared out of their minds that if there's a complaint that comes, well, the next thing you know, the City Pulse Live Eye is on the parking lot doing, a human rights abuse has taken place at an electoral station. Who wants that? So just vote and be on your way, will you? But anyways, I believe we do have some super chats.
Well, just before we go on,
sure.
The flip side of that would be, look at. If Elections Canada had taken you into a room and said, okay, drop the burqa for a second, we just want to confirm your identity, that would have been, look at Elections Canada is making it difficult for women who wear the burqa to vote.
Yes.
And making them uncomfortable. And so thus, Elections Canada is disenfranchising them, taking away their vote, putting up these barriers to voting. But that same argument will not be applied to people who say, I'm not wearing that stupid, useless piece of paper across my face to go cast my ballot for somebody other than Justin Trudeau. I'm just not. The idea that making them wear a mask when they're fundamentally opposed to it, the idea that that is somehow making throwing up a barrier to voting, that will not apply to those people this time around.
And you know, Sheila, it's fascinating, isn't it, when it comes through the lens of political correctness, when it comes to identification. Here we have Elections Canada, that person has a mask on, much like the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, when I was at Sun News and we did that experiment with a 15-year-old boy wearing a burqa. And he bought hard liquor at 3 LCBO locations, no questions asked, because again, it's probably the terror of a report like you suggested. Look at how the government-controlled LCBO stores are making it so difficult for Muslim women to buy Sambuca. I find it baffling, and we'll put that to the test, I think, in an advanced poll. See how the policy plays out.
A 15-year-old kid chose Sambuca off the shelf. That just boggles the mind. But anyway. We should go on. But yeah, if you've flown lately, by the way, you've got to take your mask down to show the flight attendant who you are. So you have to do that to get on an airplane.
That's right.
Why do you have to cover your face to go into a polling station?
Exactly.
Okay, let's get to some of these super chats because we have 14 minutes left in the show, and Justin told us to deal with him 20 minutes ago. At least he told me to deal with him 20 minutes ago, but off we went on a tangent. We've got a hyper chat from History Club World says, check CBC poll tracker. Well, you know what? You and probably 3 other people. And Trudeau went up 0.3%. O'Toole stayed and the rest didn't check. Rebel News should do a Halloween special. Yeah, we should do the Monster Mash.
I think it's
Rebel
Halloween every day these days, Sheila. Again, with the mask, 2 years ago, if you walked into your bank wearing a mask, they're pressing the silent alarm. Today, the COVID Karen teller is screaming at you to put mask up. World's insane.
My local gas station up on the highway, they used to say, they used to have a sign on the door saying, if you had a hoodie over your head, take it down. If you had a hoodie and sunglasses, especially take them both off, because they want to know who you are when you're coming into the gas station, because they are kind of out in the middle of nowhere and they might get robbed or whatever. And but now you have just people wearing masks in the bank. What a weird society we've become in 18 months. Anyways, this goes on. History Club World's chat goes on to say Rebel News should do a Halloween special. Rebel News should also make some costumes. We have a rule for David with costumes, and they require and this is not a joke, they require very careful vetting, and they have to be carefully planned in advance, because David loves a good costume to a fault, I would say.
I think that policy was implemented shortly after filming Transcat that never got to air, and I shall not speak about it here either.
I have watched that video so many times. David, if you were to do a political costume, what would you do? If you were to dress as somebody out there, I would do Catherine McKenna because it's really easy. Blonde wig, dress, high heels, pedal bike. I'm done. Oh, and a very scared looking Morgan the super dog under my arm. And that would be it for me. What would you do?
I don't think I resemble anybody out there in the Canadian political landscape, Sheila. Maybe, and of course, I'm a heavier guy than Justin Trudeau, but it would be great to put on a Justin Trudeau style suit with very flashy socks, of course. If you could get a Justin Trudeau mask, and put on and just see what the reaction of people.
Oh, I thought you were going to say blackface, and I was like, that's a hard no. That's not a costume I would approve.
No, definitely not the blackface edition of Justin Trudeau. But forget about me. If we could find an impersonator that looked like Justin Trudeau, and needed a few nips and tucks to make him look exactly like him. It'd be interesting to have him, walk through Eaton Centre, go to Yonge Dundas Square, something like that, and just gauge the reaction of people. Well, what am I saying? In Toronto, there'd probably be a lot of adulation. So maybe we should do that caper out west.
Yeah, do it in Calgary. See how that goes. So let's keep going. We've got a hyper chat from Snapphase. Well, New Zealand definitely won't be having Halloween. I predict a single positive result that will ruin that. Yeah, they keep locking down over the potential of one single case.
What's happened in that neck of the woods in terms of the Commonwealth? New Zealand and Australia. It's crazy, Sheila.
They've lost their minds there. And it's always like one case, and you're like, one case. And, the potential is, based on PCR testing, that has a pretty high chance of not even actually being a case, but you're locking down the entire country over it.
And Sheila, let's be clear, when you say one case, you don't mean one death. You mean just one positive, maybe positive case.
I don't even mean one hospitalization. I mean like one positive test result. Maybe. We've got a Super U shout from Devil's Advocate. We have to get rid of the health ghouls if we want Halloween. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's great. I see my Skype feed is slowly falling apart on my side. I don't know if it's doing the same for you, Justin, but I feel pixelated on my monitor.
Nope, you're coming through.
Okay. We've got a hyper chat from Cuba Bound. Cuba Bound? You're not going to Cuba, are you?
Or maybe it's somebody
totalitarian regime.
Or maybe it's somebody who is actually bound in Cuba, like, tied up. You see what I did there with the wordplay? I'll give myself a Barry Horowitz pat on the back there.
Yeah, just in speaking to people from Cuba, they're like, please don't spend your money there. Don't go there. Anyway, Cuba Bound says, you are the queen of FOI requests, Sheila. You should do one to clarify if they have isolated, purified the virus, and if they have the scientific data to back up their draconian measures. I think it was the University of Toronto, maybe, McGill, maybe. One of them isolated it. So, I think that ship has sailed. It's out there. I don't dispute the existence of the virus. I dispute the government reaction to the virus. And the danger posed to perfectly healthy people by the virus. But yeah, several universities have already isolated it, so I don't see the point of going through Health Canada to get that information. I know people hang a lot of credence on that. They think if they can't prove the virus exists, then all of this falls apart. But even if that were true, do you think the government would stop doing what they're doing now? They wouldn't. So what does that matter? That's a question that won't change the outcome.
Yeah.
Super U from Jack M. RCMP must investigate McKenna and Trudeau for not following COVID restrictions. Yes, exactly. I'm trying. I'm not especially confident that they will, but you know what? We did something when nobody else did.
And Sheila, let's not kid the kidders, as they say down on the Midway. Even if there is an investigation, even if she's found guilty, we're talking not even a slap on the wrist. We're talking something like an ethics commissioner fine to Trudeau in the neighborhood of $300 at most. So it's chump change.
Yeah, that's the worst that could happen. However, I'd love for her to get a lockdown ticket. I would love for her to get one.
I'd love for her to be put in one of those ratty Radissons on Airport Strip for 2 weeks. See how the great unwashed masses have to deal with when they're in violation of the COVID rules.
Yeah. No, I just want to see her get like a $1,200, whatever it is in the north. I think maybe $1,500. It's pretty high up there, actually. I would love for her to get one of those the way everybody else gets them. We've got a Super U. A hyper chat of a buck from Aqua Skies 3636. You guys are so funny. McKenna barking up the wrong tree up north.
And that's north of the tree line.
Yeah. Aqua Skies goes on to say, we're so loved and appreciated. Well, in some corners of the internet, we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you
We've got a
very
hyper
much.
chat from Adam Wanders. Remember, folks, become a member. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for saying this. Remember, folks, become a member and watch full-length, in-depth TV-style shows by Ezra Levant, Sheila Gunn Reid, Andrew Chapados, and David Menzies, and read rebelnews.com without ads. Adam, thank you very much. If people do want to subscribe to our premium long-form content, they can go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's only $80 a year, which is cheaper than Netflix or Disney Plus, and you support the work that we do, and you get some in-depth, long-form shows. Ezra does a show, fully produced show every night. Justin, the super producer, does that for him, with him. I've got a show on Wednesdays, but again, this is the internet. Watch whenever you feel like it. Rebel Roundup comes out on Fridays, again, but catch up whenever you want. Andrew Chapados' shows on Thursday. There's something there for everybody, and we each do something different. So, yeah, if you want to support. Oh, thank you, Justin. That's right. And everybody, if you'd like a sneak peek of what sits behind the paywall, you can use the coupon code ELECTION when you subscribe, and you can get access to our shows for free for the next few weeks. So that's a good way for you to test the water and find out if it's something that you want to continue and pay for, which we would love and appreciate, especially since YouTube, demonetized us. But yeah, coupon code ELECTION when you subscribe at rebelnewsplus.com and get a little sneak peek of the work we do behind the paywall.
100%. And Sheila, I had no idea. You're a Disney Plus subscriber?
My kids are. Plus, they have the full catalog of X-Files on there. So,
yes, because they bought up the Fox properties, right? They virtually own everything. And I'll tell you something, Sheila. I'm a big fan of, when they were open, of course, repertory cinemas that, show films when they're out of first release and show old films too. And part of the problem with the Fox catalog going to Disney, they are very averse to supplying retro theaters with content. I don't know why. They still get, their money for the film rental, but it has strangled the supply of films that they can show. And I'll tell you, behind that Mickey Mouse costume, folks, is Attila the Hun. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we have Disney Plus because, I have got little girls or a littler girl. And then the other one is sort of taking the David Menzies track of superheroes, but I like that they have the full X-Files catalog. I'm slowly working my way through it while I'm on the treadmill each night. Anyway, let's get to the next hyper chat. Is from History Club World again, and he says, may I recommend to everybody on YouTube right now, there's 1.5 million of you, so take this advice. He recommends that you move over to Odyssey. You get a little bit of their cryptocurrency just for watching the same content as you normally do. Oh, so they pay you to watch.
Wow, Christmas in August.
That I didn't know. So they pay you to watch us, and then you can give the cryptocurrency back to us. This is a neat little thing they've got going there. That's fun.
That's my kind of pay TV.
But I don't understand cryptocurrency. But if they're giving me some, I'm gonna take it. I'm taking it anyway.
When it comes to cryptocurrency, Sheila, like yourself, ignorance is bliss. I don't know what that means, but I'm happy.
So History Club World goes on to say, so watching Rebel News allows me to talk with the lovely Sheila and David. Well, thank you very much. And he also says follow History Club World on Instagram. Our next hyper chat is from Rebecca Henderson, and David and I saw an email from you this morning come through our email. So
we think it's her.
We think it's you. If it is you, we're following up anyways. You send us a hyper chat, and Rebecca says, made a Google review. Oh yeah, it is you, because look at this. Made a Google review on a gym on how I was denied entry due to my disability requiring mask exemption, and they disclosed my private accommodation details on Google reviews. Gross. just gross. They said they would take it down and then change their mind to save face after I said this could lead me to being bullied further.
Well, Sheila, you are the chief reporter. Do you want to assign me on that story, or are you going to mull it over?
David, you are. Nope, you're assigned to that. That's gross. That's a gross violation of your privacy. Imagine what other things your gym could disclose about you. Like, I don't remember the last time I went into like an actual gym where I had a membership. Thankfully, my daughter and I have all of our like little gym in the basement here. But do you, when you sign up for a gym, do you have to tell them some of the things that might like cause problems while you're working out in their gym? What other things could they tell others about you is what I'm saying, for vindictive reasons?
Yeah, I don't remember that being a thing, Sheila. I know, like if you go to a registered massage therapist, for example, they want to know your medical history in case there's some restrictions you might have, artificial hips, artificial knees. And so it's very important. It's not an invasion of privacy because they don't want to hurt you while they're giving you the procedure. Right, but
they're also not going to tell other people.
Oh, of course not. No, absolutely not.
Oh, that's gross. See, this is the problem with the mask exemptions, is you've got to, you shouldn't have to explain to anybody why you're mask exempt. But when you do, you're supposed to trust that complete and total stranger not to turn around and tell the world, as is what has happened to Rebecca. This is gross.
Yeah.
That's the problem here. These are lay people. They're not medical professionals, so they don't have an obligation to keep your privacy. So then they turn around and broadcast it to the rest of the world. It's awful.
Yeah. It is sad, and I know we did a similar story many months ago. It was a flight attendant, and she was told that she, like, no exemptions. I think, was it Planet Fitness? No, it wasn't. Strike that. The name is on the tip of my tongue, Sheila. But she was not allowed, to work out there, and I think, especially Sheila, if you're doing cardio, I mean, you go on the treadmill. If you're doing, and you've got this face diaper covering your mouth and nose, I think that's completely unhealthy.
It's terrible. I can't even imagine. That would be terrible. I can't even, you know what? I should do a little experiment. I run every night for over an hour. So I have really strong cardio. My Fitbit tells me I'm in the top 95 percentile and then some of women my age. So I've got really strong cardio. I should try running with a mask on and see what that does to me. I should perform an experiment.
I might even do that experiment. Lady Menzoid, as of Tuesday, has resumed her treadmill routine. She was getting a little plumpish, and I was observing her the other day. Oh, no, I mean, hey, listen, this is how I met Lady Menzoid.
What's wrong with you?
Her mother, way back in the 80s, said she was getting her word was blimpish, and that made her join the gym. And if she hadn't done that, you see, that's why honesty is the best policy, folks, because I never would have met Lady Menzoid, which is how I did meet her at the gym. But anyway, so, it's hard, when you're just resuming the fitness. She was going very slow, less of a run, more of a fast walk. But I told her, if you can get up to 15 miles an hour, what happens is the center console of the treadmill opens up and a tray comes out with a jelly donut. Holy mackerel, it was like watching the Bionic Woman. She was just off to the races.
This poor woman, you want her running faster than your stupid little electric car. That's what you want, 15 miles an hour.
How dare you?
I have nothing but sympathy and empathy for Lady Menzoid, just generally speaking, but more so today than ever. Let's keep going. We've got a Rumble chat from Ryan Rosti, who says he will be voting with no mask. Ryan, if you get a ticket, you know what to do. Send it to us at fightthefines.com, and we'll help you fight that ticket at no cost to you by putting you in touch with a lawyer litigator. And people, if you'd like to help people like Rosti, who are obviously going to get lockdown tickets for trying to exercise their right to vote in Canada, you can donate at fightthefines.com, and all donations there qualify for a charitable tax receipt through the Democracy Fund. I feel like we're going to have a real run on tickets from Election Day. David, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. Talk about a super spreader event in terms of litigation.
Yeah. We've got a Super U tip of $2. Says they're from AMT60, retiring on the 31st, want to move to Alberta in 2022. Why are you waiting so long? Just get out here. And he says he doesn't know how to do that with the Vax Pass for travel. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to withstand a constitutional challenge. However, some of these things that I thought wouldn't withstand a constitutional challenge, they've got politically motivated judges who are just not stopping them, like the hotel quarantine. So I don't know. I really don't know. I dread the idea that we have to be vaccinated for inter-country travel.
But you know what, Sheila? Seriously, and you know this better than most. If you had to go to Alberta, this is the time. I mean, if you're looking at property to purchase, you called them McMansions, going for like $450,000, whereas in Ontario, that's easily over $2 million, that house. And that's on the high side, folks. And by the same token, there are rumblings that the province is going to come back. So there is a window, like right now, go west, young man. I guess you have to say young person. Young she, her, he, him, Zeezer.
Just get out here. Just get out here. Get out here where you can afford a house, you can afford a car, you can afford a vacation. I don't know how anybody gets ahead or does anything other than just work to put a roof over your head in places like Toronto and Vancouver. I feel very sad for young people who want to start a family, and you're just like, I cannot move out of the broom closet I live in because it's too expensive. It's terrible. We've got a hyper chat from Agatha who says, great show, guys. Well, thank you very much. And Sheila, good job for being in the top 90%. It's higher than that, by the way. For her 30s. Well, that's very nice, but I'm not in my 30s.
Wow, Rep Butler, I bet you say that to all the girls.
Yeah. History Club world is just rounded down all over the place there. Anyways, David, you should start doing a weekly exercise show. Follow History Club World on Instagram. I don't want to see David in spandex. And sometimes they send me videos of David working out. People in the office do.
Well, so. I will tell you that here's the airing of the grievances part of the show before we go. I'm driving into the studio. The temperature in Toronto when I came in, it was 31, but with the Humidex, 36. And I don't know if this is a Toronto thing or an Ontario thing. I don't know if the weather forecasters do this in Alberta, Sheila, but they're saying experts advise that you find a shady area and keep well hydrated, like you're some precious flower or something. I'm telling you, after work today, I'm going on another 50K ride. That's right, I'm getting my ricotta cheese candy ass on my racer bike and going for a ride in this humidity, and I'm not going to perish from it. Sheila, do they do that in Alberta? Like, do they have nanny weather forecasters telling you to keep hydrated and seek out shade when it gets hot?
I don't know. Not a lot of it. I mean, we don't get like the scorching weather. We did have a couple weeks of it where it was like 35, but we don't have the like, oh, by the way, also the humidity is going to kill you. We don't really have that. So it's like what it says on the thermometer is what it is. So you don't have to have that extra warning where it's like, well, it says 33, but it's actually going to be 41. So you're probably going to die. We don't really get all that, like we don't need that extra layer of warning. Plus, I don't know.
Sheila, the worst example of this I ever saw was a release that went out from the Toronto Argonauts when they used to play at Skydome. And it was July or August. It was a record heat and humidity day. And they put out a release that for the safety, not of the players playing tackle football, for the safety of the fans, they will close the roof at Skydome to keep it air conditioned. For the fans, what do you do as a fan? You just sit there drinking stuff. I mean, how does heat and humidity affect a spectator at a sporting event?
We did have, like, my daughter's rugby was canceled one day because it was like 30 something.
Boo.
But that's not why it was canceled. It was because of the air quality from all the fires. We had like 2 weeks, and it gets bad and sometimes, but it's like you go outside and it's like, this is like the American Horror Story apocalypse season, where it's like all just like, you think the sun's up there, it feels warm, so you know the sun's up there, but where is it? Who even knows?
Wow.
And I think we're all caught up.
I think we are, and we're only 9 minutes past our deadline, so I know Justin wants to dig into his lunch as per usual. So thank you to Justin for being so good on the board today. Thank you to the people sending in those chats. Of course, thank you to the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. I'm David Menzies signing off. We'll see you again on Tuesday. In the meantime, stay sane.